I'm hopefully making hopefully making sound right now, and I'm gonna kind of stall until I hear that because I'm still doing different things technically. Should be online momentarily. Oh, here I come. Yes, I think I'm coming. I think this is coming online. Uh, yes, excellent, excellent, very good. Okay, so hello, everyone, and welcome to the MuseScore Cafe for today. I need to check the date as always. It's like the 9th, September 9th, 2020. And what? My screen is blank again? What is that? What is that about? Is that? I think I'm still here. Okay. So I'm gonna disable notifications because that I've noticed I have to keep doing every time. So my name is Marc Sabatella, director of the Mastering MuseScore School, and this is my MuseScore Cafe, the weekly series of chats that I do. Where hello everyone, and thanks for checking in, and I'm happy to see when people are checking in because then I know that you all are actually that I'm still broadcasting because as much as I've been doing these things and trying different things, there's still just so many technical things to deal with. Um, so in these cafes, I pick some topic to talk about and talk about it, and take questions. Especially like when people have questions about what I'm talking about, but I'm also usually happy to answer other questions too. So, this is Chrome. This is Chrome OS. This is my Chromebook. I talked about that some last week, and that's one of the things that I'm doing differently. I've only done this cafe from my Chromebook a handful of times, and I do it a little differently every time. So this is again a little bit different. Um, so I am going to do something that I enjoy doing, which is creating music on the spur of the moment. Now, as an improviser, I of course create music all the time on the spur of the moment, but improvising and composing are somewhat different. And so I first just want to talk about that a little bit. You're probably seeing some weird picture in a picture thing now. So how about if I improve the situation by putting MuseScore up? There we go. Um, so the deal is when you're improvising, some people say, well, the only difference is that composing is slowed down and improvising is fast in real time. Well, to me, it's not just about the speed at which it happens. The biggest differentiation to me between improvising and composing is the ability to edit. In improvising, it's in real time, and you could slow it down as much as you want if you really wanted and still call it improvising. The key feature being you're not going to go back and change a decision you made earlier, and you're not going to compose one section of music before the section of music that precedes it. You create the music in the order that it's heard. So these are all things that are kind of different about improvising and composing. And yeah, I use improvising as a way to get into composing. So I'm thrilled to see all the conversation going on here, and I'm kind of keeping my eye on it here. And so yeah, for those of you who are new and just coming to MuseScore, I'm definitely going to be talking about how I do things in MuseScore. I will say if you're used to Sibelius, the adjustment hopefully won't be too bad because a lot of things about MuseScore, frankly, were based on how Sibelius worked. I personally, when I came to MuseScore 10 years ago, and it was 10 years ago, fall semester, that I first encountered MuseScore. So yeah, pretty much exactly 10 years ago. Um, at the time, I was a Finale user, and the differences between Finale and MuseScore are more significant, I guess, than the differences between um, uh, Sibelius and MuseScore. So anyhow, I hope that you find this useful, and I'll try to talk through things as I do them. One of the things I want to make sure I do here before I forget is I did find a screen capture. I'm not a screen capture, a key capture tool. Screen key dash key mode. Let me try this, -H. There's a tool. Oh, wow, look at all those different options. Oh, wow, there's way more options than I knew about. Anyhow, so I'm still going to be having fun with this, but I did discover this does a pretty decent job. If I do this, then when I come to MuseScore, if I type in, yeah, I can see the letters that I'm typing. So you guys can see what I'm doing. I didn't have something like that running on my Chromebook last week, but I do now. Okay, so I'm going to just start creating some music. And I've really tried to not overthink. Yes, this is all recorded. This is definitely all recorded and will be the same link works. So the same, well, actually, if you're using the link that ends with just live, that will just become next week's live thing. But there's a permanent link to this video that will just always remain valid. So I've tried not to overthink what I'm going to compose because I really want it to talk about my process. But I will tell you what I think I'm going to do. I think what I'm going to do is create a piece for string quartet. And about the only thing that I can say I know about it is I think I want it to be somewhat rhythmic, whatever that means. So I'm going to try to be rhythmic. And yeah, it's great to have MuseScore cheerleaders here. I'm definitely one of the biggest there is. So I'm going to create a score for string quartet. That much I think I've decided. I'm going to talk about that in a second because the one thing that I might do, because my own language comes from jazz and a lot of jazz is based on chords that aren't just triads or even just seventh chords that include ninths and 11ths and 13ths and things, it's can be very limiting to only have 4 notes to work with. And yes, stringed instruments can do double stops, but I'm starting to realize that maybe writing for string quartet alone and trying to do that in something using my concept of harmony, which comes from jazz, it's not uniquely jazz, but it is a little limiting. And that if I did it, I've done a lot of composing for string quartet plus piano, but if I even just did it for string quintet, where I added a contrabass, a bass to it, that might make me happier. But I'm going to start off with string quartet. So first thing I'm going to do is Control N. And so I know this screen, this thing that displays my keys, just doesn't display control plus things, except when it feels like it. So you'll have to bear with me. So Control N, and then I'm going to give this a piece, and I set a title. It was Impromptu number 2, and it's by me. Okay, good enough. Yeah. Oh, so people who have never used this before, you can type your copyright message in here. I would love it if I had an easy way to get to the copyright symbol right now. I don't know on my Chromebook how to do that, and MuseScore doesn't provide an easy way to do this. So I leave this blank. So this is a nice little thing y'all should know. I don't leave it blank, but I leave out the copyright symbol. And then I move on, and I'm going to pick the chamber music string quartet. And I have no idea what key it's going to be in, so I'm just going to leave it in C. For now, I have no idea what time signature is going to be in. Leave that blank for now and call this good. Now what I can do is go back and get that copyright symbol. So I'll show you what I do. I edit my title, and I'm going to add the copyright symbol by pressing F2. Does that? Oh, it shows us F2. Good. And here's my copyright symbol there. And now I can cut, and I can go back to score properties, and I can paste this into my copyright message. This is a really unfortunate fact of life of how things work at the moment. Hopefully they won't always be that way, but it's been this way for a while, and we haven't yet come up with a great way of dealing with this. So let me make sure I've got this. So yeah, and I could copy and paste it from somewhere else. Is that an actual character or is that a picture? I don't think I can copy and paste that. Anyhow, so I now have my copyright message, and there it is there. Oh, I didn't put my name in it though, right? Copyright. So I'm not actually concerned with the copyright, but I figure that people, I want to demonstrate how to do things here. So there we go. So I've decided it's going to be the string quartet, and it's going to be somewhat rhythmic. I'm just going to go with string quartet for now. If I decide I need to add a bass, I will, but I'm going to go with this for now. Now, typically, what I might do if I was writing a piece is maybe go over to the piano and just mess around for a little while. So I actually think that is what I'm going to do. Oh, am I having technical issues? Eh, okay. Okay. Yeah, and on some keyboards I get hi Howard. Um, on some keyboards I have shortcuts that will um, give me the copyright symbol, but on this one I don't. So it is what it is, as they say. All right, so I'm at my keyboard, and get my chat back. Okay, I am going to just play around for a little moment. And I think what I'm going to do is, for some reason, the key of F, well, for a number of reasons, the key of F has been on my mind. So I'm going to start by thinking about key of F. And I said I want something rhythmic. And really, what I'm going to do right now is just sort of go within myself, listen to my own brain, and think about something that I might consider a motor rhythm, by which I mean maybe a rhythmic pattern that's going to give some impetus to this piece. Just some sort of pattern that I'm not saying I'm going to necessarily keep that whole pattern throughout, but if I coming from the perspective of say being a jazz musician, I'm imagining maybe what the drummer would be doing. If you think about say a Mozart piece, one comes to mind, right? That in itself is a motor rhythm. And the whole piece isn't about that, but it's something that gets you started, that you kind of organize around. So I'm going to do that. So actually, about the copyright thing, we did actually used to have that parentheses C, close parentheses, to get the copyright center symbol. And someone complained about it, and it was actually removed because people thought it was like too intrusive to have that happening. And I kind of disagree with that, and I think we should just add it back that way. That's the most obvious way, or just have a button right there in the dialogue. But whatever, probably MuseScore 4 is going to have a whole new wizard for creating scores, and that'll probably be addressed. So I'm going to think about something kind of rhythmic in my head. One of the things that's been going through my head is the idea of translating. Well, first of all, there's all sorts of things that I like to talk about with rhythm, and we'll make a whole other cafe talking about that. I have in the past. But that there's particular ways of writing rhythms that are like the correct ways of writing them, and then incorrect ways of writing the same rhythm, that all kind of come down to understanding what some basic rhythms actually are. And as a way of sort of teaching that, one of the things that I like to do, and my wife Kari, who teaches elementary music, likes to do, is take names and put them to music. So the last thing that I see is Andrew Crosby. So not seeing MuseScore. Can see the score and chat and me. So yeah, I don't know. It's possible. Yeah, I don't know. I can't see that at the same time, because as soon as I switch to that, it changes. But once I'm actually using MuseScore, then let me know if you're having problems. So I see. What did I see? Crosby. So really, that's just 4/16 notes or 4/8 notes, depending on my tempo, and that's fine. But I'm going to think about that as something that's going to inform a rhythm. And I'm thinking about the key of F. For some reason, I heard those, and I heard two more. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. And this is kind of the rhythmic thing. If you have just the coffee cup, but you're hearing the sound, that's actually kind of surprising to me that you would be able to hear the sound with that. But speaking of coffee cup, you can't compose movie music without coffee. Well, at least that's true at 10:30 in the morning. Okay, so So one of a little device that I really like is this sort of descending thing, this sort of descending chromatic lines, and I don't know how I'm going to make use of that right now. I don't know what I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to kind of put my hand on the keys and play around for a couple seconds to give me some ideas. Then I'm going to come back to MuseScore and start working out some ideas. So, you know, I said F, but maybe it's D minor. All right, that's all I need. I think that's what I need to get started. Silly as that seems. Okay, so uh, as crazy as that might seem, I feel like that in itself is what I would probably want. So, Colleen, maybe if you press the play button, maybe that'll get it back. Maybe it's paused, and maybe that's what's happening, but I don't really know for sure. So I so I heard a line happening somewhere around the second violin. And I'm going to call those eighth notes, and I am going to say it's in 4/4. Yeah, I'm going to say it's in 4/4, but my key signature is going to be one flat. By the way, one reason I was thinking about the key of F was really I was thinking about the key signature of one flat and wondering if anyone here is from Germany. I'm kind of curious because I know in Germany and other certain other European countries they use B to mean B flat and H to be B, what the rest of us call B and B flat. And I'm trying to understand the historical reasons behind that, and I wonder if that might have something to do with, like, in the Renaissance, the certain modes being more popular than others in Germany, and if maybe F ended up being a particularly common final for German composers in the Renaissance. That's something I need to kind of research on my own, I guess. So those notes there were maybe in what I played, but the actual line that I played that I was interested in was in eighth notes. So I'm using keyboard shortcuts for virtually everything I do, which is one reason I wanted to get the keys displaying here. So you see N is what gets me into note input mode, and out again. And then it was eighth notes, and the shortcuts for eighth note is 4, 4, 5, 6 for eighth, quarter, half, and then everything else. Faster notes are smaller numbers, longer notes are bigger numbers. But 4, 5, 6, eighth, quarter, half. That's a good thing to just sort of commit to memory. If you've got a numeric keypad, that's less like the middle row. So I've got my eighth note selected, and then, ooh, not loud. Not that octave though. Now I'm thinking about this line and thinking, even though I said it was it was like a second to top line, it's going to be kind of low for the violin, but yeah, I'll live with it for now. Dun, dun, bum, 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 bum. It was a B natural. That was my line that was the line. Nowhere near fast enough, right? So let's add a tempo marking. It's Shift Alt T is the shortcut that I know. Yeah, and it enters a tempo with a metronome marking on it that I can just edit to be what I want. And I'm hearing somewhere around 160, I think. I don't have perfect tempo, whatever that is. Yeah, that's about it. If you don't like to remember that shortcut, because frankly, I don't always either, here's the tempo palette. You can either add a numeric one, or you can, use one of the Italian terms here. But then you can just edit it to be what you want. So, yeah. Question, Frank. Yes, question. I'm happy to take your question. But meanwhile, I'm just going to keep talking for a little bit and uh, be thinking about this. So when I did that, I had on top an F, and so I'm just going to enter as a whole note for now. My F. Actually, Yeah, I'm going to enter it as a dotted half note. So what did I do? I undo some of this stuff. I typed 7 for whole note, and then I typed an F. And then I changed my mind. And to be honest, I don't remember what I did to change my mind, but I think what I will do now is I'm going to press escape to leave note input mode. Then I can press 6, which changes that to a half note, and then dot to add a dot. Changing duration I do normally outside of note input mode, but if you are in note input mode, be aware we have these keys W and, well, that was probably a mistake. I'm going to use Q first. It cuts the duration in half. W doubles it. Shift Q will kind of, like, you see it took away the dot, and then it goes to dotted quarter. So Shift Q is really nice, and Shift W. So when I started off with that whole note, actually Shift Q would have given me the dotted half in one key. That's kind of a nice little keystroke thing that we have. So I'm doing this, but because I'm thinking now this rest here might be an important element in what I'm doing. And now below, see, this is where, again, what I played on the piano was more than 4 notes. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, you know what, I want a bass in here. So I'm going to I pressed I to bring up the instrument dialog, or it's edit. Well, I can't do it while the dialog's up, but edit instruments. I'm going to just go ahead and add myself a bass. So when I do that, notice it didn't extend the bracket to cover that bass. This is one of the things actually being worked on now as we speak, probably for a MuseScore 3.6, which, is probably a few months away. But it's being worked on where it would automatically know to add where that, like, it would know if I had tried to add another violin to add it up here, not down at the bottom, and it would know to extend the brackets. This kind of stuff is being worked on now to try to make this stuff a little more foolproof. So I've got this and the bass. Okay, so now here's the other thing. I'm doing this in D minor, and I have to decide, am I going to assume that this bass has a low string of an E, which is the normal low string on an E, or am I going to assume that my bassist has an extension that allows them to go down to C? Orchestral players, generally speaking, will have that. But I don't think I want to assume that. So I'm not going to give it the low D. I really want, type 6, then dot, and for some reason it's choosing not to show me my keystrokes. I don't know why. 6, dot, oh well. And now I enter my D. Maybe it crashed. Did the screen program crash? No? Disabled. Huh. Somehow I disabled my screen thing, and so I'll have to look up what key did that and see if there's some way around it. All right, so that I have, and I do see the questions that were in there, and I'm going to come back to those. And then somewhere around here was an A, and this D, by the way, is actually an octave lower than that. It sounds an octave lower. So that is where I played it on the piano, was an octave lower than this, and that's really what this is. If you're not aware of that, basses sound an octave lower than written. This is the same note as that. So this is that, right? So this guy was somewhere around, I'm going to use another, well, actually this shortcut is, it's it's Shift, Alt, and down arrow is what moves diachronically. Down arrow by itself moves them chromatically, but it's sometimes nice to just move them through, without accidental. So I'm going to go with A, and I forgot to enter a duration, so I'm going to take advantage of those shortcuts that I mentioned, W, and then Shift W to add the dot. Okay, I'm not sure what the viola is doing yet because I need to think a little bit more, but when we come back and look at some questions here. Okay. Oh, good. Colleen's in now. Yay. Hey, Mom. Hi, Mom. I've never gotten to say that before. Hi, Mom. Okay. So why is the H and the B and so forth? I just don't actually know the history of it. But what I can tell you this is, because it is interesting to me, and if someone wants to go look up based on what I'm saying, I'd love to hear people chime in with more information. Save me the trouble of doing more research. Um, so in the beginning, in the old days, like many centuries ago, all we had were the white keys on the piano. That's a way of looking at it. Obviously, we didn't have actual pianos, but those were the pitches, A through G, and we tuned them a particular way based on what the ancient Greeks had figured out. Archimedes, or no, not Archimedes. Pythagoras was actually one of the people who worked out some of that stuff. What the frequency ratios were, and came up with a set of 7 notes that all kind of harmonized well with each other and contained each other's overtones and so forth. But there's a question about whether one of those notes, whether B would work better or B flat would work better, because they would both, if you're 7 notes in the overtone series, you could work it either way, basically, is how I would put it. If you start with a C, it's complicated as far as how the overtone series works, but the reality is you end up with 7 notes to work with, and it's either A through G like we're used to, or it's A through G but with B flat instead of B. That is also has these same nice mathematical relationships, and then eventually we discover that, whichever, even if you only have a C and a D, there is this note between them, a C sharp, that we can introduce when we need to, and so we'll eventually get all the rest of the notes. And in Germany, for whatever reason, they just had settled on using B flat instead of B, and so to them that was B, and that got the letter name B, and it just had a lower pitch than what the rest of the world or the rest of Europe used and called B. So their B had a lower pitch, and then they would need to raise it to be our B, and then we would have B that we would lower to get the German B. In Bach, you could write. You can definitely write the music to the name Bach, B flat, A, C, B natural, and Bach used that all the time. Not all the time, but often enough. Just throw that. Would throw that little bit of. Is this Bach? Did I just write Bach? In a scrambled order. Here's my B. No, I didn't put any A's in there, so whatever. I'm not going to try to write Bach. All right, so I'm looking at this and thinking, do I actually have what I played? Because what I played, actually, I had a G. I remember having a cluster on the piano, so I'm actually going to give the A to the oboe, and I'll show you it's so easy for me to just enter this, but I am going to use cut and paste so you can see it. I'm going to use Control X. Hey, my screen thing came back. What do you know? And then come up here and Control V to paste. Oh, well, bye-bye screen thing. And then, so there's my A. And then maybe I'll paste it back here, but then I'll use that shortcut to move it down a step. Okay, on my keyboard, on a Chromebook, Alt down arrow, or it doesn't actually work. It's a reserved key in Chrome OS, and so I had to redefine it to be, instead of Shift Alt down arrow, it's Shift Alt bracket for me on this system. I customize that. If you ever want to customize your keyboard shortcuts, Edit, Preferences, Shortcuts, and there's a long list of them. So I think if you type down, you'll see diatonic pitch down. Alt Shift down was the default shortcut, but I added it. It's not going to work on this computer, so I added Alt plus basically Shift bracket, which ends up showing up as a curly brace. So this is what I played. All right, so then I have to think. I think instead of actually a dotted half note, what I'm hearing is bump, bump, bump. I'm hearing a quarter note and then repeated, R, R. So R repeats whatever is selected. This is borrowed directly from Sibelius, and we actually improved it for 3.5 to work more like Sibelius, so that Sibelius users will be a little more at home. All I have to do is click a note and press, whoops, I have to change it to a quarter note first by pressing 5, and then R, R. 5, R, R. 5, R, R. So I think I want these, I'm thinking about how I want these played, and I would want them somewhat detached, like all quick down bows or something. So let's add the articulations in here. I'm going to add the down bow symbol here, boom, and same here. So I'm selecting the notes. Oh, the way I'm selecting, I selected the whole measure here and then realized, oh, it has the rest in there. Shift plus arrow reduces selection by a note or increases it by a note. So, and then I got those selected, add my bows. Got those selected, add my bows. Got these selected, add my bows. Normally I would add the bow markings later, but really those notes are actually, I want them shorter than that. So I think I would have to ask a violinist if they did that, if how short these would come out. Um, I want them shorter than that. So I'm going to add a staccato. I don't want them pit staccato, but I'm going to add staccato markings, and Shift S is my shortcut for that. And let's see how this is. That's basically what I'm talking about. And I'll mark that one short too. And this, I would imagine, would all be taken on one bow. I'm not a violinist, so I'm not sure. Actually, I think even if it's capable of it, I think I'm going to get closer to the sound effect I want if I. So what I'm doing is I've got a note selected, Shift arrow, then gives me the selection, S gives me the slur. This is probably more to the point. Bottom, bottom, bottom. So that's a down bow, an up bow, and a down bow for the violin because it's moving. I could tell them to do them all down bows. I'd have to again ask a real violinist. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I heard when I sat down and played at the piano. No sound? Oh, no sound. Okay, sorry. Let's see if I can fix that. Well, check that out. The browser screen is not listing in my thing here. So let me re-share this. I think I need to change screen share. Let's try it again. It's still not showing up in my list here. Well, let me delete it and now add another one. I wonder if I just undo it. Oh well. I'm going to add another screen share, so you get to learn how this all stuff works here. So I'm adding a screen share. I select it, say share audio. See, this is what I'm looking for, it to be showing up down here, and it was before. Now it's covering up my face. I need to drag this thing down. And it doesn't like me to drag it all the way down there, but if I drag it here, I'm good. So now I think you're going to get it. Let's see if you hear it now. Y'all hear that? I'm going to hope so. Because if not, there's probably nothing else I can do about it. That is what I expected to have. And I think I had it in the beginning and then somehow lost it, and I'm not sure how. But no, still not hearing it? Really? That's rather unfortunate. It says it's at 100. It's not muted. No, that says it should be going gangbusters. Let me try changing it one more time. Share audio. That's important to hit that share audio button. One more try. So, there was my one more try version, and if that doesn't work, then unfortunately I'm not sure what else I know to do. That, as far as I know, that should have worked. So that's going to be a bummer if we can't do this. Yeah, no sound still. That's boy, is that unfortunate. Okay, so let me think if I can think of any easy way around this. I guess the thing that I can do is switch over to my Windows computer, but I can't do that without ending. I can invite myself. Oh man, I don't want to spend all my time dealing with that. But oh gosh, I think you're right. Send a live. Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you. All right. Here's Send to Live now. Now how are we doing? I think you're absolutely right. That Send to Live, because that thing, as soon as I made that change, that Send to Live, yes, yes, excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for remembering that, for seeing that. Yeah, the Send to Live button here enables once I make a change, and I have to remember to hit it. So thank gosh. All right, so I have that figure, and now I want to start writing some music around it. And so I've spent a lot of time setting all this up and talking through that process. And of course, this is normal, but I want to actually get on with this and do this. And one of the reasons I love the idea of the motor rhythm is I'm going to repeat this thing. And really, what I think I'm going to do is I'm hearing it in my head. Do I want to have the next measure have the same rhythm or an answering rhythm? I hear it as actually an answering time. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-dum, ba-do-dum, ba-do-dum. That's what I hear. So I think I'm going to give it to violin 2 again. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-dum, ba-do-dum, ba-do-dum. And that I'm singing a line that's going up, right? And what I'm doing is I'm starting to think ahead. That's kind of what I hear it doing. So I've got a phrase and an answering phrase. And then I'm going to repeat that same original phrase and answering phrase, but probably at a different pitch level, maybe with a different prevailing harmony. So ba-do-da-do-da-dum, bum is what I think I sang. So bum, bum, rest. 0 is a rest. Boodum. Ba do da. Now I'm thinking about if I go B flat, flat, D, I end up on a C. And is that what I want, or is it? Am I hearing it end on a C sharp? You all don't know what I'm hearing. Only I know what I'm hearing, so I have to ask my inner brain. What I'm hearing in my brain is I think this is what I'm hearing. Now, I'm not actually sure. It's I'm not sure what I'm hearing in my head. That is what I'm hearing. So it is ending on a C, which is fine because that'll set me up to not come back to a D. If I was composing at the piano, I would do that at the piano to try to figure that out. But one of the points that I often make when I'm talking about this process is I don't like to do what I just did, which is let MuseScore play it for me or play it on the piano, because I'm hearing something in my head. The moment I hear MuseScore play something for me or hear myself play it on the piano, that sound starts to interfere with my original conception. I start hearing the playback or hearing the piano, not my original thought. And I don't like that. I would rather be true to that original thought. And so I usually try harder than I just did to sound it out in my voice, one note at a time, or just be silent and listen to the inner voice. But you all can't hear my inner voice, so I'm leaning a little harder on my singing of it. And since my singing isn't that good for working out chromatic lines like this, using the playback to tell me. I'm leaning down on that a little harder than I would, in real life. Okay, yes. Okay. So I should have, when I was doing these cafes on my Windows computer, I would have my Chromebook set up watching the chat, and now my Chromebook is doing this. I should have my Windows computer set up doing this, but I'm just going to pull it up on my phone because I can do that real quick, and that way I can see the chat nicely. Okay. That way I don't have to keep switching other than when I want to type into it. So now I hear a change, and I'm listening again to this inner voice. I'm trying to keep this motor rhythm thing happening, and I think I want to hear that same rhythm happen again, but perhaps with different pitches. And I think it's going to have a pickup this time. In fact, that's actually going to give me the C sharp. So I'm going to go here, enter a 0, and then my C sharp. And then it's going to start on a D, but I think it's going to go to a different place. So what I'm going to do now, and actually I need to fill in notes here, but I feel like I can do that. In fact, I don't know that the third note here is actually the same note. I don't know that I really wanted the same note all 3 times. Maybe so. Maybe so. I'm maybe going to hear a different chord here. So here's the thing where I mentioned improvisation and composition being inherently different. Improvisation, even in real, it's in real time. I can't go back and change things. I can't say, well, let me take. I have a a light on a timer, and so I think you may have just seen it go off. So I have to go wave my hand to turn on it's not a timer, it's a motion detector. So I have to wave my hand to wake up the light every once in a while. So what I want to do, what was I saying? I got distracted by that. Oh yeah, the change here. I'm not sure what notes I want to put in that kind of quarter note pulse here. I want to wait until I know more about what's happening in the next measure. So that's something you have the luxury of doing when composing. I don't have to commit to this measure until I look at this measure. And so I can sort of go forwards and backwards, which is kind of nice, right? So, it's going to go up this time. I'm thinking how high this line is going. And I think the chords are going to change on each beat in this measure. Whoops, not that one. This one. D. That is what I'm hearing in my head. I did work that out in my head. And what I'm hearing is I'm not sure what's happening harmonically here. I'm not sure if these are going to be all 3 the same chord. I think that I liked how it sounded, so I think that must be right. I haven't thought through what happens in here yet, but I definitely know this F sharp, of course, is not in our original key, and I'm not sure what's happening harmonically there. And I think that's the key that I need to work out next, is where is this line going? Now, I will say that everything about what I'm doing is very one measure at a time, and I'm thinking ahead a little bit. And a lot of this is for the sake of demonstration. It is a little bit not in keeping with how I would really do this stuff. So, I'm trying to make a demonstration that works for you guys, that isn't just you watching me sit here and hum to myself. So I'm trying to be as active as I can, but it does mean that, things are a little different from my regular process would be. Because I'm also focused on making sure you see some MuseScore things in this, I look at these bow markings, and of course these are too far from the notes by default, and that's because our default placement of bow markings is not really good. So one way around it is to say, make this beat. No, I thought that was actually going to do it, but it didn't. So never mind on that. Oh, it did. It was just a different one. So what actually happened when I did that? Above chord. Oh yeah, it's this one down here. So if I set this to be above chord instead of above staff, it pulls it in tighter. That's sort of a coincidence that works. There's also style settings. If I go to Format, Style, Articulations, and Ornaments, you'll see all these different settings to control the distances for things. If I change this articulation distance here and start reducing it, I guess that didn't take effect. It took effect a little bit, but then it was limited by automatic placement, which is trying to keep it no more than 0.5 away. So I think this is actually too big. And if I just go with a 0 here, but let the minimum distance do the job of keeping everything half a step away, that's going to make me happy. So I can click this one and press Control R to return it. I don't know that half a step space is good for all articulations, and we don't have a way of setting them separately for this. So Howard, if you're still watching, this is stuff I'm sure Simon's going to want to be looking at and having us address. But for now, that's what I'm doing. And by the way, I've never saved this thing, have I? Control S. Let's save this thing. So I have a place where I put all my cafe stuff, and boom. Okay, so I have this chord that's sounding here, and it's really a chord that's built on fourths. It's a C and a G, a D and a G, and then an A and a D. They're two perfect fourths, a step apart. There's not actually an F in this chord. Well, no, that's not true. What am I saying? The D is here, but the F is on top. So scratch that. But it is based on having this fourth between the D and the G, and then having the fifth of the chord there, and the third is up here. And so I need to think about this now, because I've been thinking of this second violin part as a melody. And by the way, I'm now at the bottom limit of the violin, which is one reason I thought about moving this into the viola. But it's working for me. I can always change it around later if I want. But I kind of feel like I need to hear what's happening in my head to go on this final chord that I have and what's coming next, and kind of think about harmonically what's happening. And normally I think, I don't want to say I think harmony first, but I think harmony much earlier than I've been thinking here. Somehow, once I got this motor rhythm thing happening, I would say I started thinking rhythm first, and then melody second, and harmony third. And that's not always the case. Normally, harmony might come up maybe as fast as rhythm or faster. It all depends on what the piece demands. And this piece, I told you from the very beginning, all I knew was string quartet, rhythm first. That's all I knew about it. And then I changed it to a quintet because I just wanted to. I knew I was going to want thicker chords, and I didn't want to rely on double stops everywhere. So I know that I'm going to rely a lot on maybe this pedal point D here. And in fact, I think I'm just going to, I say that, and I think I'm just going to go with it for now. I'm going to select that whole measure and press R a couple times. And now I've got something happening here. But I think there's going to be something different happening in the inner voices. But before I answer that question, I'm going to think about what the melody is, right? The melody, the top note. I mean, maybe the second violin is the melody. Just because this note's the top note, it's not the melody. But our ear is going to hear whatever is on top as being equally important, I guess, is how I would put that. That's just how our ears work. So, bum bum bum, uh 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 Okay, I just heard myself a little melody, and I'm singing it, and I'm hearing the second violin part with it, and liking what I'm hearing. You all have to trust me on that. I'm listening to my ear. So I sang bum 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 bum. Oh gosh, I see now I forgot what I sang. Bum boop bum was the line that I'm going for. Boom boop bum. And then I ended on I know man, anyone have perfect pitch or really good ears who can tell me what the heck I just sang? Because it was right. Bum 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 boom bum bum. I'm pretty sure I ended on a B flat here, but I thought I did, but now I'm thinking I ended on an A. Bum 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 boop bum. That's FEG, and I think that's what I sang. But then I kind of imagine that I ended up on a B flat before, but now I'm thinking if it was bum boop bum, that's an A, not a B flat. So I'm just gonna ask myself the same question again. Bum, bum, bum. I think it just ends on an A. So I'm going to enter what I think is the case. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because it's the same everything else except the pitches, I am going to use R to copy that, and now I'm just going to change the pitches. Now, if you do this thing a lot, we do have a special mode just for this. I don't use it a lot because it's a little bit more trouble than it's worth for me to go into and out of this mode just for some quarter notes. I'll do it if I have a huge long eighth note line. But in not rhythm mode. Sorry, not rhythm mode. I want repitch mode. Now all I have to do is type my pitches. Bum, 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 bum. And it keeps the rhythm, it keeps the original rhythm, keeps the original articulations. It just replaces the pitches. And then I have to remember to go back to regular input mode. So that is, I think, what I'm hearing in my head. And now I just need these voices. And I think these voices are just sort of moving around a little bit. And I think this B flat, I'm a little concerned now that this voice is starting to cross this voice. And, voice crossing is okay, but this A is now above this note. And I'm going to actually compress this voicing now. Let these notes come down lower so that they are below the violin. No, I'm not. I'm just, that's like an arbitrary rule that says don't cross voices. What the heck? I'm going to cross voices. So I'm now thinking linearly as well as horizontally. In other words, as well as vertically. So I'm thinking what I want this viola line to look like, but also what I want it to add up to vertically. So I'm thinking about these things, and this is my A, right? If you don't read alto clef. Okay, so here's the deal. I don't read alto clef well. Sometimes I will admit to cheating. I will go to the clefs here, and I will just change this to treble clef and just live with a bunch of ledger lines. Or I can use, oops, wrong one, this guy. The treble clef transposed an octave clef, and now I can tell it's an A. But actually, that kind of throws me off because that octave thing messes me up. So sometimes I'd rather see ledger lines. Anyhow, I'm just going to make myself read alto clef because it's good practice, and why not? But I'm not a viola player and don't write. When I do a lot of string writing, I get okay at thinking in alto clef, but I haven't done it for a little while, so I have to retrain my brain. So here it goes. So I have, I'm gonna rather than what I was about to do is click this note to try to remind myself of what an A sounds like. No, I shouldn't need to do that. Bum bum bum. There's my tonic. D F A. That's an A. Thank you. So if I can't remember what that A sounds like, I need to work on that skill. So I will do that. I will reset. If I don't remember where an A is, I better remember that D because I've been working in D minor this whole time. I better be able to re-sing that A, D, and then find the A from there. So D, F, A, A. And now I'm looking at the viola part with the violin part, and I'm kind of hearing that if there was sort of an implied dominant kind of sound here, I'd be happy. If there was kind of an implied A7 sound, while keeping that pedal point, I'd be happy. And so I'm thinking about how to make that happen. And I'm kind of like looking at the shape of this and saying, is it going to work to keep the same shape of that in the viola? A, right? A. That time it was just for pitch. I mean, for intonation. A, G, B flat. Is that B flat and that A going to give me what I want? It's not actually a dominant sound, but it is a subdominant sound, and that's good enough. Dominant sound and subdominant, they're not as different as people would lead you to believe. They're both not one, and they're both things that will get you back to one. And in fact, if you take that subdominant chord, you take a 4 chord. If I take that G minor chord, well, it's not even minor because of this B natural here. But I take that 4 chord and I stick an A underneath it. Let me show you what that looks like. If I take a G chord and I stick an A underneath it and play this, let's make this all whole notes, shall we? So you can hear it long enough. This sound is an A7 chord with a suspended fourth in it. It's a suspension sound. If that D had been left over from a previous voice, it would literally count as a classical suspension. So the 4 chord, if you stick the 5 in the bass underneath it, is basically a form of 5 chord. So the distinction isn't as big as people might sometimes lead you to believe. But in any case, I'm going to have this D pedal underneath it. So I like this idea. I'm going to go, the same thing. I'm going to use the repeated thing here, and then this time, instead of going into repitch mode, I'm just going to use my diatonic pitch raise thing. So bum, 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 bum. Now this B flat against that B natural is dissonant. Boy, if I let that worry me, this isn't going to be the piece that I'm writing. There are other pieces I might write where I would worry about that little distance. Here, I think I'm going to embrace it. The fact that I'm going to get this major third and minor third in the same chord, but the major third only for a second, not even a second, right? A few milliseconds. And then it changes to this other sound. In my head, I'm hearing this and I like it. We'll hear MuseScore play it in a second, don't worry. But then I just need, there's a shortcut then. I just went into note input mode on this viola staff, but I need to get down to the bottom staff. And so here, again, there's a shortcut Alt down arrow. But remember, Alt down arrow on Chromebook doesn't work for me. So for me, it's Control Alt bracket is where you're going to see. Okay. So I have that G, D, G. Okay. D, D, F, G, 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 F, E is a sound I'm hearing in my head, and I'm asking myself that E, and then this B flat, and then that G. I like this. This is actually a 2-chord kind of sound. That E would be, that's E, G, B flat, and D. That's actually the 2-chord. E, G, B flat, D. It's half diminished 2-chord. So this is the melody I'm hearing myself in my head. And again, I'm jumping the gun by going to note input mode. I'm going to hit R so that I get to inherit all those nice articulations. And then down, and then down again. I think I like it. I don't want to listen to it. Yeah, I want to, but I don't want to, right? Because I don't want to judge this measure, because this measure was, I told you, I really wanted to hear this measure. I wanted to write this measure. And I can see that at this point, I'm going to have the same kind of tension between major and minor, where I'm hitting what's going to feel like a minor chord here, and then it changes to major in the middle, right? And so I'm looking at this last chord as this kind of 2-chord, and then if this is kind of my 5-chord sound here, then it's going to 1 and then kind of turning to major. I'm liking this on paper or on bits or whatever it is on screen. But I want to think through the pacing of it, because it is a little weird to change to the 2-chord here, then switch to the 5-chord here. I think I want to keep my 2-chord here and then have my 5-chord in the middle of the measure and then my 1-chord here. I don't necessarily have to think that tonally. And my original chord, right, I had a 4th in that minor chord. I am thinking sound clustery kinds of things, and I am going to let that happen. Like I just said 5-chord, but you look at what I've got written here. It's got a D and an F. It's got 2 Ds and an F. So that's not going to sound like any kind of 5-chord that you're used to hearing. It's not going to sound like an A7 chord, but I'm going to try to push it in that direction. Okay. I like how you think. Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. I think I can mute my speakers. I'm going to mute my speakers. I think you'll still hear it, and I won't. All right. Ooh. So, there you go. I think, though, even when you hear that, you're going to hear this measure out of context. And I want it in context. So I want you to withhold any judgment that you might have had about what this measure sounds like until you hear how it is resolved here. So I want to create the illusion of a 2-5-1 type of thing here. Again, I don't necessarily need it to literally be 2 to 5 to 1, but I want to create that sort of motion. So what I'm going to do is repeat this measure, and this time Okay. I'm thinking about this. I think this is going to be the only guy who can have the third. So I think this guy is going to want to end on the A, but this one already has an A. I'm just going to let it go up. And so it'll be a one chord that has the G in it, just like it did before. And what I'm missing here is, I don't know, probably a ninth, I think would make me happy. So if I get myself to an E underneath this, I think I'm going to be happy. So I'll repeat this again, and I'll bring this all the way up to E. And now I got to work my way up there in something that feels like 2-5-1. Now I called this 5, but now I'm not. This F isn't gonna stay. I think I need to have this be an A, and now I have something that I can believe as an A on it. And I think this guy wants to be a C sharp because this is going to give me a portion of that 5 chord. So here I'm going to have the A and the C sharp. That implies 5 chord, even if I have this other stuff on top of it. It's dissonant, I agree. But I think I'm going to like the sound of it. Oh, good. I like that. I like that someone says they like the sound of it. So this is cool. All right, great. So yeah, I'm hearing some sense of urgency behind this kind of piece here. And then it's gonna end differently. So actually, before because I think I actually have something, I'm gonna come back and look at what's happening harmonically. Then I'm gonna listen to it finally myself. But there's this was a phrase, and then it ended this way, and this then is another repetition of the original phrase rhythmically, but instead of answering it the same way, I think I'm going to answer it differently, and that's a common thing. But often it's in threes, right? We'll have phrase 1. And then phrase 2 is a slight variation on it. And then phrase 3 is a more significant variation that really ends differently. That AAB type form is really, really powerful. It's common in a lot of classical music, but it's also common in blues. It is the structure of a blues for what it's worth. But I want to look at this and see if I'm buying what I did here. Already I'm not, because I said I wanted a 2 chordish sort of sound here, and that really means I need that B flat back. So there's my B flat. And then, so here I have that 2 chord thing happening again. The E, the G, the B flat, and the D. And then I have my 5 chord kind of sound happening here, the A and the C sharp. And here I get an E, and there I get an F kind of crunching against it, which is fine by me. And now here I'm getting a 1 chord, but with, and I have to think about that. Is that G really what I want here? Because I think it isn't. I'll tell you what I want. I want a B natural. I think, because I'm looking at this D chord, and I said it's going to have this waffling between minor and major, but this note here is an E. That's a ninth, and that's all well and good. So I'll have my 2/3 in there. I have my ninth. I have my root here. I think what I really want here is a sixth, a major sixth. This, I think, will give me the right sound here. And this is why I'm really happy I have that bass in there. I have 5 voices, because this is really what I want. I want 5 voices a lot. I've got a root, I have a third, I have a fifth, I have a ninth, E, and I have a sixth or a 13th, B. I want 5 notes all the time. So I don't want to have to write so many double stops. I think this is going to be good. So, but I do need to add, since this part here, I haven't added my articulations. I'm going to do that, because when I hear this thing, and this guy's staccato, and this guy's staccato, so I'll select them both. Oops, not slur, Shift S is staccato. So, so I don't know bowing wise if this is literally how a violinist or how a string player would want to bow, but whatever. I will deal with those questions a little bit later. All right, I'm ready to finally hear this thing, and you guys haven't heard that measure. I think I'm gonna like it, and I think I'm gonna live with it no matter what. And I'll probably wrap up because I've been going on for about an hour here. So I only wrote 3 measures of music, which is what happens when I'm talking more than I'm writing. But this time I think I'm off to a really good start for something. Okay, so I like this second measure a lot. I don't like that third measure nearly as much as I thought I was going to. I like that four chord. I like that four chord sound. Yeah, I'm not liking how that thing ended. So I think this idea that I thought I was ending on a one chord, I think I'm just wrong about it. I think there's probably something more modulating-y happen here. In other words, I don't know that I want to stick with that D pedal after this. And I think that I would need to revisit these last few notes and take it in a different direction. But I can't do that until I write more. So I think if I were doing this, I would go over to the piano and start working out some more ideas. Because for the benefit of this demonstration, I only wrote that one measure and said I'm going to run with it for a little while. Well, realistically, this is as far as I can run with it just based on that. I need to work out some more ideas, and I can do it in my head, or I can do it at the piano. But I don't want to trap myself into doing it in MuseScore, because then I'm going to create something that's too one measure at a time. I don't want to compose one measure at a time in that way. I want to compose with a little more flow. I can play faster than that. I can think faster than that. I can't type or write faster than that. So I like to compose ahead faster. And maybe this comes from my experience as an improviser, where I can improvise fast, right? I can improvise in real time. So whatever's going on here isn't. I think maybe it's that the rhythm. I think that something totally different needs to happen here. So I'm going to go on a limb and just delete this. Oh yeah. Yeah. So this is all good. This imitation 5 chord was good. That 1 chord just wasn't what I wanted. Yeah, that's actually quite good. It was just that last beat was messing me up. Yeah. That's the sound I wanted. So I thought that I was writing towards that last note and made a big deal about that I wanted to get that last note and then work my way towards it. And then when I got there, it turned out it wasn't what I wanted. Well, this speaks to my original point about how improvisation is a one-way street, and you're writing and you just take it and you got to work with it. I would have had to accept it and then make that work. But because I'm composing and not improvising, no, I can write, I can go back, I can think that that's the note I wanted, I can write my way up to that note and then get there and say, you know what, I've changed my mind. Now, one thing that I often do is I will write stuff. Like, I don't compose into MuseScore very often. Again, I'm doing it for your benefit, so you can be seeing the process here. But I often have a scrap of paper. In fact, I have a notebook here. I think this one I grabbed will be instructive. This is one of my compositions. I hope you can see this. But it's scribbles. It is really just note heads scribbled, and here's some more. So I do a lot of scribbling on paper while I'm working out ideas, and I'll write down little fragments, and then I'll draw arrows. Oh, I think this fragment connects over to this fragment, and this fragment connects over to that fragment. I do really a lot of that sort of thing. So I do a lot of that sort of thing because that allows me to put ideas down pretty quick without having to really get too specific about what they are. Just note heads with no stems. Even the rhythms, like when I said there's no stems, I'm indicating rhythms kind of sort of by the spacing between the notes. I'll leave more space to indicate, oh yeah, that's a long note, and then I'll expect that I remember that later. And if I don't, that's okay. It'll be something different. But I will write down ideas. And so often I'll write down an idea, and then, like that thing that I just erased, I would never do that on paper. In fact, I'm going to unerase it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it, and I'm going to paste it over here into a little scratch pad area. Oops, not Control-N, Control-V. Just so I remember that that's a thing. In fact, it's not just that that's a thing. It's the entire measure. So let me undo that. And I'm just going to take this whole measure here and remind myself that was a measure I thought was good at one point. Now I'll delete this. because this might be a good idea. Yeah, I'm not that crazy about it, but I don't want to judge yet. This is a brainstorming process. Something in me thought that was a good idea. I'm going to hold on to it. I thought it was good on paper. I never liked the sound of it. And so that's what makes me hedge on whether it's really worth keeping. But if I ever like the sound of something, I'm going to keep it, even if I find something else I like the sound of better. Because probably the same theme is going to come back, maybe 8 bars later, maybe 2 minutes later, depending on how long the piece is. I'm going to be reusing this material probably. And maybe even if I take it a different direction now, when it comes back later, maybe that will be the right time for it to go this direction. So I don't want to lose sight of the fact that I thought I had something. And maybe it's just that I didn't like what led to it. I don't know. No, I just don't like that as much as I thought I was going to. Yeah, I think it's just not working for me the way I thought it would, but I'm still not going to get rid of it. So what I could do is create a whole separate score to put the scratch pad stuff in, or I could just leave it here. I'll tell you what I think I am going to do is I'm going to create a section break at the end of this. So I created a custom workspace for myself, and I've showed that occasionally, but it has all these interesting things here, and here's the section break. And because I use them a lot, especially creating educational workspaces, I even created a shortcut for it, Control-Alt-Enter. Except not while the focus is in the palette, I guess. Control-Alt-Enter. And it enters one of these section breaks. And that basically gives you a line break, but it's a special line break that also knows to do things like repeat the staff names, start the measuring number overing. It's like creating another movement. It's how you would create another movement. So this is now my scratch pad area. And so I can paste stuff into this and kind of have that. I don't do that sort of thing a lot because I really do use paper a lot for that. But if I was composing at the computer, I think I would do that more. All right. Well, I think I'm going to come back to the chat here and just see what else. Yeah, I saw most of the comments on here. All right, yeah. So someday a big band arrangement out of this. It could be, although I'm really liking, I conceived of it as a string quartet, and everything about how I thought about those rhythms and that was thought of as string quartet, and I'm going to finish it that way. And my idea of finishing it will probably never be like a 10-minute piece, but I'm really realizing there's a lot of value in like 30-second bits of music. That the piece Reunion that you've seen me demo many times, that was the demo score for MuseScore, is only like 45 seconds long, but it's a lot of music in 45 seconds. And you think about things like commercial jingles or just background music for the if I do a podcast like I've said I want to do a theory podcast, I'm going to need some theme music for the podcast, and it's only going to be like 10 seconds of music. So I like to think in terms of writing short snippets of music that are sort of complete in themselves, and then could be taken into a longer piece also. Oh yeah, let's listen to it slower, and then I think I'm going to wrap it up. So to listen to it slower, I could change the tempo here, or I could go to the play panel. The play panel here, and I've sized mine nice and small, will just let me sort of temporarily slow it down. So 50% on the tempo, and now let's hear it. Yeah, and so it's not really going to end there. It's going to have something here. It's just not going to have what I had here. I actually like this better slower. I still don't love it, but I liked it better slower than I liked it faster. This part I didn't like as much. I don't like this nearly as much slow, because then I'm paying attention to the dissonances and things, and that's not what it was about. I was assuming that the momentum was going to carry me through, and I think I was right about it. Actually, I do like it slow. So if I didn't like it slow, I would have been a little worried, to be honest. But I do like it slow. So I'll take it back to full tempo. I mean, maybe the real tempo isn't 166. Maybe it's 144. I like to use like the things I remember as being official metronome tempos. Yeah. I've got a really nice start to something here. So thanks for kind of bearing with me and following in my thought process as I work all this kind of stuff out. Um, so and I'll post this, and then you all can play around with it. I'll post it to musescore.com, and I'll put the link in the comments here so that you all can see it. So that'll happen in um, oh, and here's the other thing. So, like I said about the same thing with that ending, maybe faster. Maybe I originally thought of it was faster, but you like it slower too. Maybe it's both, right? Maybe there's a slow. The theme starts off in a slow thing, and then it comes back later fast, or vice versa. And then maybe in the slower version is when it goes into a different version of things. I like to think in terms of having all these options. So I said I like to write short snippets of music, but I also like to create longer pieces that are composed out of short snippets but glued together in interesting ways. And so sometimes you can have a 10-minute piece that's really based on only 30 seconds of material but developed in interesting ways. That's really not uncommon. So I am gonna wrap this up because I've been just having a lot of fun with this, and I'm glad to see that you guys are too. And hopefully, people maybe saw something new and learned something along the way. And uh, thanks again for being here. And next week we'll just be back, same time, talking about something else entirely. As always, feel free to email me, Mark with a C at musescore.com, or comment in the comment on the I comment on the if for cafe topics and things. I love it if you just leave comments on the videos, because then other people can see them and also engage in conversation. So I'd love to see more suggestions for cafe topics and comments on this. And yeah, I'll keep working on this and post updates periodically, because it is fun. So see you all next time, I hope. And I got to remember how to sign off here. I don't have a keyboard shortcut for it like I do on my other machine with the other software I'm using. So I'm going to sign off and see you guys next time. Bye.